Republicans are getting even more worked up trying to prevent Donald Trump from running as a third party candidate. We've talked about why this is a huge deal. Donald Trump at the Republican debate organized by Facebook and Fox News did not say, or rather said he would not take a pledge not to run as a third party candidate and to support whoever is the eventual Republican nominee. And we've spoken about how if Donald Trump maintains the support he has, or even if he loses half of the support and ends up running as a third party candidate, he could single handedly give the election to the Democratic nominee, the eventual Democratic nominee. So Republican National Committee officials have been working with Donald Trump's campaign to try to avoid this scenario. And now, as we speak, Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, is sort of making a pilgrimage to Trump Tower, coming up from Washington, D.C. to New York City to talk to Donald Trump. And every indication, Lewis, Politico has in fact already reported that Trump is going to sign this pledge saying if he doesn't win the nomination for the Republican Party, he won't run as a third party candidate and he'll support whoever wins.
And is this a legally binding pledge?
Of course not. Of course not.
No.
This is ludicrous on so many levels. Number one is that by making every Republican sign this, you're saying to Jeb Bush that he has to say, hey, if Trump is the nominee, I'm going to support Donald Trump. In spite of the fact that Jeb Bush has been more and more aggressively talking about how terrible of a candidate Donald Trump is. Number one, that's crazy. Number two, this is completely unenforceable. If Donald Trump is not the nominee and decides to run as a third party candidate, the Republican Party has no authority or jurisdiction whatsoever to prevent Donald Trump from doing that. Now, do we expect Donald Trump would lie and sign the pledge and ultimately does whatever he wants? I don't know. I guess not. But Trump is the type of guy who might just do this to get everybody off his back and then do whatever the hell he wants. I don't really know. But what I can tell you for sure is that this process is completely undemocratic. And I really hope that Donald Trump ultimately does run as a third party candidate.
I hope so too. He may want to give the election to Hillary or whoever. If when he loses the Republican primary, I'm assuming he will go back to being a businessman with a lot of money and a lot of influence, and he could have a lot of pull when it comes to the next election.
You know what I read today about Trump, which is interesting. I didn't look at the details, but so Trump is not really the self-made man that some people think he is. He inherited just a ton of money from his dad. And I read something that they did an analysis of Trump's successful businesses and his failed businesses, blah, blah, blah. And compared to what his inheritance would be worth today, had he merely invested it all in index funds and let it ride with the market, that he actually would be even richer if he hadn't done any of these businesses and just sat on the money in index funds and let it ride, which tells us a lot about the power that receiving such a huge inheritance has. He could have done nothing and been more economically, and ended up more wealthy than with all of his so-called successful businesses that he has run.
Yeah, that is interesting. And, we could argue that, hey, you've got an ambitious guy here. At least he tried and, golf clap for that, right?
Yeah, if I had a huge inheritance, I wouldn't just sit around and let it ride. I would take a piece of it and leave it and let it just be in just standard investments, index funds, some bonds, real estate investment trusts, etc. But of course, I would try to get some businesses going or do other stuff. I'm not faulting him for that. We just have to remember that his business success has not exceeded the broader market averages that anybody could get just by throwing their money into the NASDAQ or the Russell or the Dow.
Right. So perhaps he is just not quite the successful businessman that everyone thinks he is. Not necessarily that we thought he was, but he has a lot of support.
All right. We will probably hear very soon, if you have not already heard, that Donald Trump has taken this pledge. I really hope that he goes back on the pledge if indeed he does ultimately take it. We will take a break and we'll be back after the break. Give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/David Pakman Show.